Our guest today is one of India's most formidable legal minds. Zia Mody was born into the law, the daughter of the legal luminary Soli Sorabji.
So obviously my father was a senior counsel. When I shifted more into corporate law, I don't think he was very happy with the decision.
And also an upright, highly ambitious mother, Zaina Sorabji.
My mother remains a very strong woman. One of our commandments is that men and women are equal. I was the only daughter, so she made sure I was equal.
She walked into the courtroom with no playbook.
When I came back, as I told you, I did litigation and I had not studied a day of Indian law in my life. The 10 years of litigation completely shaped my life. It taught me to dance. I worked much harder at that time because I was a woman.
She carved a niche for herself in corporate law, her growth becoming almost synonymous with its evolution in a post-liberalized India. In this episode, we talk about how corporate decision-making is changing in these times of uncertainty and strife.
But I think the decision-making by and large, because of the geopolitics, is more cautious.
Significant deals that have put Indian corporates on the map.
So we just finished doing the Sun Pharma deal, where $12 billion was the price, which was large. It made a statement to the world that we are also, as a nation, capable of doing these sort of high-value, very intensely synergetic deals. There are others which are planning to go to other countries in the world where they think there's a stressed asset.
AI in law.
I think the generation of lawyers today, if they are AI trained, will be much more valuable and much more efficient.
Women in law.
There are very few women counsel compared to their male counterparts. I think it's a function of, having to be an actor every day.
The one big problem that corporates most often come to her with, succession. And of course, succession and legacy at her own firm, AZB.
I think the problem is the founders are 20 years older than everybody else. And so the next generation, 2 or 3 people from that generation, will have to actually steer the firm with the acceptability and keep the cohesiveness together. That is the real part, If you take the name AZB, it's presumed it has quality, presumed it has honesty. And that all our lawyers have killed and given their lives for. Great lawyers don't come without hard work.
Listen on to this conversation with ET's in-house legal expert, Maulik Vyas. It's Monday, the 8th of June. I'm Anirban Chaudhary. You're listening to Corner Office Conversation.
Welcome, Zia, to Corner Office Conversation. You started your career with Baker McKenzie back in early 80s. In mid 80s, you came to India, and the growth of Indian corporate law coincides with the India's economic liberalization of 91. So could you tell us how do you see this entire evolution with the lens of corporate lawyer?
So I think, thank you, Maulik, for having me on the podcast. I think what you've said is correct. So for my personal story, I worked with Baker and McKenzie till 1984. I came back to get married. We did not have any liberalization then. So for the first nearly 8 to 10 years, I was in court as a barrister, as a counsel. And then when Manmohan Singh's FDI policy came in 1991 and foreign investment started coming into India, that's when I morphed, if you like, from being in court the whole day, because that was the only option, and to doing corporate law where all my old friends from law firms, clients wanted to come and invest in India. And that is how I think all law firms grew, with the liberalization of foreign direct investment. So did we. We started with 12 lawyers. Now we're over 700 lawyers. So the economic growth of law firms is very much in tandem with the liberalization policy of the government. and it continues.
So you also practically grew up watching your father, legendary late Soli Sorabji, one of the most consequential counsel India ever had. Watching him while growing up, was it any confusion with regard to delving into corporate law or continue with being, say counsel and argue in the court? Or how you manage that parental aspiration with your personal aspiration in that
Yeah,
sense?
but that's a good question and was a difficult one. So obviously my father was a senior counsel and his entire life was spent in court. And as I told you, my first 8 to 10 years were also spent in court. And then when I shifted more into corporate law, I don't think he was very happy with the decision because he thought I should go on to become a senior counsel and maybe a judge. When I was also a counsel, at the same time he was a senior, I used to lean a lot on him for guidance on strategy, how to argue, how to put a point across to the judge. But he was in Delhi and I was in Bombay. So these were mainly chats, crisis that I faced the day before the matter. And he was always there to give me balanced, seasoned, strategic point of view. But he was not happy that I stopped.
Could you tell us something about your mom? I mean, your mother. What all things you imbibed from her, and when you became one, what all things you feel that okay, these were the learnings that I actually got from her, and now I'm also trying to pass it through my daughters.
So my mother remains a very strong woman. She's 91. She's a follower of the Baha'i faith. So am I. One of our commandments is that men and women are equal. I was the only daughter. So she made sure I was equal. I was the eldest. And she insisted that I get the best education possible, which is what happened. She always taught us to work hard, to be self reliant, to expect to be able to perform at our peak because God's gifts given to us should be not taken for granted. We didn't have tuitions. She didn't allow them because she said, I pay for school fees, so why should I pay for tuitions? When it comes to my own children, I think the story is a bit different. My mother was a housewife. I was not. So time was the enemy. It was difficult to give that quality of time. I had a great mother-in-law who lived with us full time, and she really took a lot of the burden of raising my three daughters. What did I pass on or try to pass on? The same passion for hard work, the same passion for excellence, honesty in everything that you do, the value systems that everybody should have. And now they have grown up, they have their careers, and I have 5 grandchildren. So that's the story of life.
Wow. So, in many of your interviews, you have said that at the days of your Baker McKenzie, Norman Miller was one of your mentors. When you started your corporate firm, namely as being Partners here in India, what were particular learnings from Norman that you think actually helped you to grow the brand as it be that is today?
So, quite a few lessons. Firstly, it was the training of analyzing a problem and cutting through the issue. Norman would see that I cut the chase and get to the point. So that training was important, and I think we've carried it through as a firm. So let's get to the bottom line, as they say, in all the problems. Baker McKenzie was a full service firm, but I was in the corporate department. When I came back, as I told you, I did litigation. Yeah. And I had not studied a day of Indian law in my life. I had studied abroad. So to get into that space was really taking up any matters, learning the law on the trot, seeing what it was in court. And then when I went into corporate law, of course, pretty much knew the Companies Act by then. FERA, which was then turning into FEMA, was evolving by the day. And we were all having fun learning it and seeing what the new liberalizations were coming up. We had this old, dirty looking green book called the Exchange Control Manual. And we had to put pieces of paper on it every day to show the changes. And we had to be current daily because it was changing so fast. So I think what I learned was clarity of problem solving. So what Norman Miller taught me was, okay, this is your client. what will the other side want or expect or not give up on or give up on. And therefore, you learned strategy, giving and trading, giving up one point, taking back another. And so when I was in court, those antics were at their highest. And then when I started doing corporate law in India, I had the benefit of both the mentoring in America as also my mentor in Bombay in the High Court, Mr. Obed Chinoy. And then I took it through to the small boutique we started.
So when we are still at foreign law firms, last year in May, Bar Council of India liberalized and allowed foreign law firms to practice in certain areas. There are still certain ambiguities prevailing. What is your honest opinion about liberalizing in Indian legal sector?
So I think it's a mixed bag. I think some foreign law firms would like to be here to plant their flag to say, we are in India. I think the reality is that so many years have gone by without foreign firms coming in that all foreign law firms have what they call an India desk in their headquarters or in other countries. Now the question is a formal presence in India. Some of the larger firms may feel, will I face the income tax man? Will I face the bar council? Some say, okay, let's start and try and face it. So it all depends on how important each law firm thinks it is to have an official presence with the concomitant complications in India. So some will, some won't.
What do they feel about Indian market?
Again, it depends which practice you talk to. If you talk to litigation partners in foreign law firms, they feel that it takes too long to get a decision. If you talk to corporate M&A, private equity lawyers in international law firms, their clients abroad see India as an opportunity. But by and large, despite the geopolitics, I think the verdict is in favor of India investment. That's my sense.
Speaking about geopolitics, if we see nowadays, lots of geopolitical considerations, be it China one policy, be it sanctions. So, in that context, how much deal activities, particularly India's outbound activities or inbound activities, have impacted? And where do you see, commonalities or say some sort of predictabilities in Deal Street when we live in this kind of environment?
So I think that outbound activity from India is opportunistic and depends on the value that they think they're getting. So we just finished doing the Sun Pharma deal. $12 billion was the price, which was large. There are others which are planning to go to other countries in the world where they think there's a stressed asset. Indians like to go and buy companies abroad which have technology, so they can skip a generation of R&D and use that technology to come back home. I think that is the ODI part. Inbound, I think that, if you look at the private equity engine, a lot of the funds which have been raised are huge, and the dry powder is immense. And a lot of the Asia funds that have been raised have a larger focus on India than they had before. But I think the decision making, by and large, because of the geopolitics, is more cautious, a little slower. The depreciation of the rupee has not helped. But I still think that if there are good opportunities here, we see a lot of bidders bidding for the auction. So there is interest.
You just spoke about Sun Pharma. It is one of the biggest deal in recent history. Could you give us some anecdotal experience about how was it to stitch such a huge deal from outbound point of view?
So the feedback was that it was across nearly 30, 40 countries. The diligence was at its highest. I think the company was looking at what it would do once it acquired in terms of synergy, integration, and of course, all the regulatory issues which came up in each jurisdiction. It made a statement to the world that we are also, as a nation, capable of doing these sort of high value, very intensely synergetic deals. And I think it just put Sun Pharma in a different class, right, in terms of where it stands today. So I think it was product synergy, new value coming in because of the different products, and the presence in different countries, which you didn't have to start as a greenfield.
Also, I mean, going back from a deal street to say business of law, if we see there is a huge talk about AI and legal tech disruptions. We primarily see that drafting, due diligence, which generally lawyers used to start their career with, is something that law firms can automate. So, in that era, how do you see the evolution of law firms, and do you think the traditional partnership models in law firms in general will change in future because of this AI disruption?
I think the model of partnerships will change, but I think that the way the next generation of lawyers work may be very well different. I think what AI seeks to do, and I think it is still nascent in Indian law firms, we have adopted Harvey as a firm. Where we find it is helpful is in summaries, issue lists, scanning through to see that, certain prompts that we give are responded. But I don't think it substitutes the human mind. I still think that for the analysis, to make sure nothing goes wrong, the double checking, the ticking the box to see that we've asked the right questions where the client is still going to be around.
Also, we now see lots of overlapping of practice areas from, say, multiple professional services. I mean, big fours are doing so many things that law firms are also doing, and then there are a host of other professional services firms who are trying to cater to the same services who are not either big four or law firms. So, do we also see some sort of business model of law is also changing with the time?
So I think, well, first of all, the big four are not allowed to practice law. So I think they do it in their own model. But I think, yes, there are services which traditional law firms would have offered, which now other consultants are offering. I still think that if you need legal comfort and a legal letterhead, you will have to go to a law firm because that is the opinion you can rely on and which basically puts the law firm on the hook. But yes, are there traditional areas of law which are getting approvals, setting up companies, sometimes even dealing with regulators? Yes, it has morphed and it has become a wider range of intermediaries. That is true.
When we talk about business of law in general, you entered into the profession at the time when it was absolutely a male dominant profession. Even if after so many years we see so many changes are happening, but still the representation of women's in equity partnership, in leadership positions is relatively low. How do you see that changing?
Slowly, not quickly. I think it's more of a problem when you come to the court. There are very few women counsel compared to their male counterpart. I think it's a function of, having to be an actor every day. And how do you manage that if you have a family and if you have other pulls and pushes? When it comes to corporate law, I think women are doing much better. They have more predictability, if you like, of their day or their week. But slowly, the ratio of partnership given to women is increasing. So we have about 35% partners are women, and other firms have it too. So it's talent. And if they can stay the course, it's really the retention. And how do you keep them back with you at the right time when they are going through their worst moment? That's the key of any management.
So if say you were advising a 24, 25 years of yourself who is entering into legal profession now, what all things you will tell her? How would you would have done it differently if you were entering into profession now?
A different era, no, Maulik. So much has changed. I'm 70 now. When I was 25, I was arguing in court in India. But I would really give the same advice. What I did, I worked much harder at that time because I was a woman. And we were at a far bigger disadvantage in the mid 80s than we are today. So I was always over prepared, didn't want anyone to say I had done something foolish. The paranoia quotient was very high. It's less so now because women are just more confident now in their skin. But I would say for any young lawyer, what you really need is the wantingness to work hard, because you could be a genius, but if you don't work hard, that genius is not going to find enough spaces to occupy itself to produce a great lawyer. Great lawyers don't come without hard work.
Also, you have always spoke about the institutionalization of firms or like companies also. In the case of AZB, how do we see firm being institutionalized and getting clear succession planning?
So, for all of us, that's always a work in progress, right? So we have the three founders, and then we have very good, strong management committees in Bombay and Delhi that work together. It's putting together best practices, it's putting together cross pollination, it's more cohesiveness, and in time we'll throw up some leaders that will be acceptable by 700 lawyers or at least 150 partners. That is really the challenge. I think the problem is the founders are 20 years older than everybody else. And so the next generation, which is fantastic, really who from that generation is going to have or two or three people from that generation will have to actually steer the firm with the acceptability and keep the cohesiveness together. That is the real part.
Also, you have been advising India Inc. for so long. What are the things that also promoters coming to you, other than law, that they would like to discuss it with you? They want to your sound advice before they take any decisions. Are there any other aspects also other than law that they come and seek your advice, your
All the
guidance?
time.
What are those?
It's about the next gen, what I think about the next generation of theirs, constant issues about the girl child and the boy child, which still exists quite a lot for us. Sometimes just talk about how a separation may be best, talk about how they want to professionalize, and it's all about giving up that seat and how much do you give up that seat. And then sometimes they just talk about, okay, I've done it, been a success, taken it to the end of my road. Now it's best that I cash out and do something else with my life.
When you look at all these years of your life, which are the things, key elements, key decisions you think that has shaped Zia Mody, that the Zia Mody is today?
I think the 10 years of litigation completely shaped my life. It taught me to dance and it taught me to think on my feet all the time. I think the boutique firm was great fun because everybody just knew everybody and knew everything about everybody. And we spent nights together with cold pizza, having a blast. As you grow older, I think you get to know less of the 700 lawyers. And sometimes you wonder, is it too big? Should we have stayed smaller? Sometimes my partners tell me we're too small, we should grow bigger. But I think my journey has been pleasurable for the ability to have grown along with my co-founders and the entire strength of my partnership. You can't grow without that. And the fact that we've been able to preserve the value and reputation of the letterhead for decades. I mean, if you take the name AZB, it's presumed it has quality, presumed it has honesty, and that all our lawyers have killed and given their lives for. So right now we're in a place where we should be at the top of our game. We can't take it for granted. Every day is a challenge which you either change it into an opportunity. There are some threats which face you, which you try and figure out how you have to deal with. But the business of law is good.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Zia.
Pleasure.
That's it for today. You were listening to this episode on Corner Office Conversation, a show where we talk to the most interesting business and thought leaders in India and the world. This was hosted by Maulik Vyas, produced by Vinay Joshi and Rajas Naik, sound designed by Rajas Naik. Keep listening to our shows wherever you get your podcast. Stay tuned.